Power. The driving force behind so many villains, both fictional and in the real world. Power comes in many forms. Some seek it as knowledge, while others desire wealth and influence. For some, however, true power transcends reason and understanding. It is something more than petty currency or just knowing things. For some, true power is mastery over the world, the elements, and fate itself. True power is the ability to raise or destroy entire nations at a whim. True power is what separates mortals from gods. Some chase power. They are enthralled by it, and soon it becomes all that defines them. Reason and purpose no longer matter, so long as greater heights can still be attained. Some seek it because they are born powerless, while others simply want to reach the height of what they're capable of. It may seem like a shallow motivation to many, but power for power's sake can truly make for a captivating antagonist when done correctly. Does it work for Syndra, though? Well, let's talk about it. Syndra was released in League of Legends on September 13th, 2012. Her lore was very straightforward and to the point, not to mention brief. So rather than attempting to summarize it, I'll just read it to you this time. Born with immense magical potential, Syndra loves nothing more than exercising the incredible power at her command. With each passing day, her mastery of magical force grows more potent and devastating. Refusing any notion of balance or restraint, Syndra wants only to retain control of her power, even if it means annihilating the authorities that seek to stop her. Throughout her youth in Ionia, Syndra's reckless use of magic terrified the elders of her village. They took her to a remote temple, leaving her in the care of an old mage. To Syndra's delight, the mage explained that the temple was a school, a place where she could develop her talents under his guidance. Though she learned much during her time there, Syndra no longer felt her power growing as it had in her youth. Her frustration grew, and she finally confronted her mentor, demanding an explanation. He revealed that he had dampened Syndra's magic, hoping to help her learn control and restraint. Accusing him of betrayal, she advanced on the mage, commanding him to lift the spell that was holding her back. He backed away, telling her that if she couldn't control herself, he would be forced to nullify Syndra's magic completely. Furious, she summoned her power and dashed the old man against the walls. With her mentor dead, Syndra felt the rush of her unbounded potential for the first time in years. Though she had won her freedom, she refused to return to the society that tried to steal her gift. Instead, Syndra decided to claim her former prison as a stronghold. Pushing the boundaries of her magic, she tore the structure from its foundations and raised it into the sky. Free to delve further into her art, Syndra now aims to grow powerful enough to destroy the weak, foolish leaders of Ionia, and anyone else who would dare shackle her greatness. So, Syndra was born a gifted mage, but her inherent magic was so great that she was considered a threat early on. We've seen plenty of prodigy mages throughout Runeterra, especially in Ionia, but seldom are they regarded with the level of fear and trepidation that Syndra's elders displayed around her. Even her own teacher ultimately feared what Syndra was capable of becoming, but in lying to her, the man inadvertently turned her into the very monster he feared. The problem is what follows after. Syndra takes the entire temple into the sky and just starts planning to overthrow Ionia, I guess. It doesn't seem like she has any real interest in ruling, she just wants to make an example of those she felt wronged her. What's more, given the amount of power at her disposal, if she can lift an entire temple into the sky with ease, I'm pretty sure that she could have easily crushed the Ionian elders at any point. At the very least, this lore all is pre-retcon, so you could say that the summoners might have had a hand in stopping her, but that just left Syndra in a rather awkward position. She was just chilling in her floating temple, preparing for some eventual coup, I guess. Honestly, that's always been the core issue of Syndra's character. She's basically Runeterra's most powerful hermit. She has no real connection to any major battle and has no interest in really interacting with anyone. She's just hidden herself away to grow stronger until she can eventually live up to her title of the Dark Sovereign, as if she's not already powerful enough to do that. The most she ever really got was a taunt from Xerath, and that's no longer canon because the League doesn't exist anymore, and thus these two have likely never met. But that brings us on to the current post-retcon iteration of Syndra's lore, which does have a bit more to dissect. So, without any further ado, let's see how Syndra was adapted into the new canon, shall we? As before, Syndra was born with innate magical power, but didn't discover it right away. Rather, she had a less than pleasant upbringing, often being scolded by her parents for negligence or bullied by her brother for her reclusiveness. It wasn't until that bullying went too far that Syndra's magic finally erupted. Not only did she injure the bullies attacking her, but she also inadvertently killed a sacred tree in her village called the Ghost Willow. What does the Ghost Willow do exactly? Honestly, it's never explained. It's just one of like a billion sacred trees in Ionia, but its destruction was enough to get Syndra and her whole family exiled from their hometown. To the credit of Syndra's parents, they didn't abandon her after this incident, though as Syndra continued to display signs of magical aptitude while they wandered, those family bonds continued to weaken. Eventually, they met an old hermit who told the family of a school where Syndra could learn to better control her magic, and so she was sent off to study. From here, the story more or less follows the same framework as before. Syndra's teacher performs regular rituals to weaken her magic, causing her to eventually lash out and kill the old man. Syndra then proceeds to go on a massive temper tantrum with her power, tearing chunks out of the island itself. It gets so bad that the spirit of Ionia has to intervene, summoning tendrils of roots to capture Syndra and drag her into the earth. Oh, for those unaware, the entire island of Ionia is technically alive. Or rather, it's inhabited by a powerful spirit that can manipulate all the nature on the isle. The plants, weather, animals, and even the surrounding ocean to an extent. To be honest, there's a lot we still don't fully know about the spirit of Ionia and how it truly functions, but it's effectively the nation's patron deity, for lack of a better term. So yeah, when the spirit gets involved, even Syndra ultimately can't resist it. She gets dragged into an underground pool of magical water, because those are just all over the place in Runeterra. It's there that Syndra is basically put into stasis for over 100 years, because everyone needs to be centuries old in this story for whatever reason, and is forced to relive dreams of her past over and over again. Anyway, the Noxian invasion happens, and during all the fighting, Syndra is eventually woken up from her age-long slumber. She casually steals the fortress that had been built to guard her resting place, and then just kinda flies off to parts unknown. Where did she go? What is she planning? We don't know. That's where Syndra's story ends, for the time being. So, there are pros and cons to this version of the bio. Let's discuss the positives first. This version of the story gives us a bit more insight into who Syndra was as a person. At least a little bit. She was a reclusive child with a mind that loved to wander. It shows us Syndra's family and the community that she grew up in, which is certainly more than the original lore offered. Unfortunately, that's about where my praise ends. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't hate this version of Syndra's bio, but it just falls short to me in so many areas. Like, there's so much potential here that feels unexplored. You could have had the Ghost Willow elaborated on a little more as a plot point, or perhaps explore Syndra's relationship with her family more while they're in exile. Hell, even the nature of Syndra's magic is really vague when you boil it down. It's portrayed as basically a form of telekinesis or perhaps gravity magic, but then her new bio also mentions that she can leech energy out of things and manifest pure negativity, whatever that's supposed to mean. Also, I don't really feel like this version of the story justifies Syndra's obsession with getting stronger. As I've said before, power as a motivator usually works best if a character has a reason to seek it out in the first place. The best characters who use this trope are those who want to overcome some adversity or hardship, but become lost in the pursuit of strength merely for the sake of it. In Syndra's case, you could make the argument that her magic allowed her to finally stand up for herself against her bullies, but it's never really elaborated on how she actually felt about the incident. You could make the argument that Syndra might also rightly view her power as a curse, given how it got her and her parents exiled, and deprived her of any lingering hope for ever having a normal, happy childhood. Furthermore, Syndra's current lore puts us more or less in the same place we started, with Syndra off doing her own thing, completely disconnected from any other characters or storylines, with the vague implication that she might come back and do something evil one day. I mean, her universe page says that she has relations with Karma and Irelia, but we have no official sources implying that she's ever met or interacted with either of them. I'm pretty sure that's only there because they would probably see her as a threat or an enemy, but right now the question is if either party even knows that Syndra exists. And really, I think that's the biggest missed potential here. Karma is the enlightened one, basically the avatar of League. They are a soul who is in perfect tune with the spirit of Ionia, and thus able to commune with it directly on some level. More than that, Karma has the ability to reincarnate themselves. Every time Karma dies, they take up residence in a new child, gifting them powerful spirit magic and memories of all of Karma's past lives. The current vessel for Karma is a woman named Darha, who is basically the closest thing to a traditional leader that Ionians really have. Karma's current mission is to secure the peace and safety of her people in the wake of the Noxian invasion, which forces her to walk the delicate balance between preserving her homeland's ancient traditions and customs, while also rallying her people in preparation for further potential conflict. She understands that peace must sometimes be fought for, but discourages the mentality of by any means necessary that the likes of Zed or the Noxians themselves champion. Karma is also arguably one of the most powerful magic users in Ionia, with soul magic so strong that she can destroy an entire Noxian warship by herself. Which makes it absurd that Viego could corrupt her, but we won't talk about that. Basically, Syndra would work perfectly as an antithesis to Karma, someone who represents Ionia's destruction as opposed to its salvation. You could maybe even do something with the vague Hindu influences that karma has, with the whole theme of cycles, death, and rebirth. I'd like to shout out this one comment by Bono Bono from my Syndra rewrite video, talking about how Syndra could even perhaps be some sort of failed or corrupted incarnation of karma, who didn't like having her fate decided for her and is now trying to rebel against the spirit of Ionia itself. There really is so much you can do with Syndra, and it feels like Riot just isn't sure what direction they want to take her, so they've just written her out of the plot for the foreseeable future. Given their track record, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little worried about the future of Syndra's character, but at least this isn't a situation quite as complicated as the Darken or the Ruined King. If I'm being honest, I wouldn't be surprised if Legends of Runeterra saves the day yet again to give Syndra that much needed story progression that less popular characters are so often denied. Until that happens, though, Syndra will remain in the unfortunate limbo she's found herself in since her inception. The world's most powerful hermit, waiting to become a proper antagonist just as soon as Riot can finally find a good excuse to actually involve her in a storyline. But what do you all think? What direction would you take Syndra's character if given the chance? Leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I'll see you all next time.